Hi folks, welcome to RJ Impact, the channel where we dive headfirst into the enigmatic world of hoaxes, frauds and conspiracy theories. Today we present a remarkable tale of high-stakes poker deception and an epic showdown that sent shockwaves through the very foundations of the game. In this gripping narrative we will unravel the jaw-dropping saga of a certain Mike Postle, an individual who became synonymous with a poker scandal and the whirlwind of events that followed. With all the twists, turns and unanswered questions, you'll be left wondering if there is more than meets the eye in the world of high-stakes gaming or whenever modern technology seeks to improve things.
5 and 7 of spades. A straight flush.
The mysterious Mike Postle. In the shady corners of the poker world, there is a name that looms large, Mike Postle. On what we could call a fateful night in September 2019, Postle was in the midst of an extraordinary poker session at Stone's Gambling Hall. Nestled between the roar of the Interstate 80 and a nearby Popeyes, this unassuming casino became the stage for a spectacle that would baffle and intrigue poker enthusiasts worldwide. Stone's Gambling Hall, with its Old West saloon aesthetics and gaudy lighting, played host to a high-stakes Texas Hold'em game that was being broadcast live on YouTube and Twitch. Several top players had converged at the card room, with one high roller apparently even flying in on a chartered jet armed with $50,000 in cold hard cash. However, when Postle entered the arena, the competition seemed to wither in his wake. He effortlessly claimed the title of chip leader, as was his custom in the Stones live streams. You see, Mike was on a tear, a run of wins he'd achieved on the live broadcasts for over a year now. He was making hero plays and calls correctly on a monotonously regular basis. Was this night going to be any different? Hours into the game, a strange hand took place. One that would set ripples through the poker community. Like any other game of Texas Hold'em, players started with 2 face-down cards, the hole cards. 5 community cards were set to be revealed in 3 rounds, offering opportunities for betting along the way. The first 3 cards, known as the flop, were unveiled. The 8 of spades, the 9 of diamonds, and the Jack of Diamonds graced the table, a promising setup for Postle. He now had a pair of jacks and was just a 10 away from completing a queen high straight that would be 8, 9, 10 jack queen. With 2 shared cards yet to be revealed, the excitement was palpable. At this point in the hand, 7 of the 9 players opted to fold, leaving Postle with just one opponent, Mal Cordero, a professional poker player hailing from Las Vegas and known for her substantial social media following. Cordero placed a $600 bet after the flop, setting the stage for an intriguing hand. Mike Postle, wearing a white baseball cap that almost concealed his eyes, appeared deep in thought, clutching his right shoulder with his left hand. And whilst most experienced players would choose to call or raise in this situation, Postle had a unique and unorthodox style of play that often baffled his opponents. His decisions were either seen as wildly aggressive or inexplicably passive. Nonetheless, these eccentric instincts had served him well recently, propelling him into an awe-inspiring winning streak that had earned him monikers like the Messiah and even God amongst the casino regulars. Postle took his time, silently contemplating his next move, almost frozen in his black leather chair, and eventually, somewhat reluctantly, he pushed his cards forward, folding his hand. Surprisingly, Postle's decision to fold turned out to be a very clever move. Mal Cordero was in possession of the nuts, and that's a poker term for the most valuable hand. Her concealed hole cards were the 10 of diamonds and the Queen of spades, which meant she'd already secured a queen high straight before the river card. Her odds of winning in this case were a staggering 96% when all the cards were dealt. Justin Kelly, one of the live stream commentators, couldn't contain his enthusiasm. "This is what I'm talking about, people," he exclaimed. "Postle takes the weirdest lines and gets people to lay down huge hands all the time. But when he has top pair and a straight draw, he's just able to lay down against the nuts. Postle is just a freak. He's a freak of nature."
But he also looks slightly constipated. And he mucks. This is what I'm talking about, people. Postle takes the weirdest lines and gets people to lay down huge hands all the time, but when he has top pair and a straight draw, he's able to just lay down against the nuts. Postle is just like a freak. He's just a freak of nature,
it's like
man.
He knows.
He's just a freak.
Just doesn't make sense.
In like the best way. Like I say freak with love. Like maybe with a PH if that's what matters, but like I'm just saying. That's insane. And he's also got the highest effing VPIP.
Yeah.
Welcome to Stones, baby. Welcome to the game of Postle. Insane. Insane.
It doesn't make sense. It's weird.
Absolute insanity, guys. So it looks like Chin over here in the hijack is going to pop it up to 150.
See, the
with
one
ace
thing
four
about
suited.
Postle is he's got this high VPIP, but it's not like, it doesn't reflect on post-flop play at all.
True.
Like, he's super loose pre. And then post-flop, he's just like, completely tightens up and changes.
By the way, I caught you.
You see, Postle had gained a reputation over the years since the live streams had been broadcast. Commentators regularly praised his play. "Only Mike could do that" was a refrain heard time after time when he bluffed against the odds or laid down a strong hand at just the right time. Sensing a phenomenon that they could use to promote their casino, Stones themselves used graphics and in-jokes that emphasised their otherworldly opinion of this poker god. However, Veronica Brill, Kelly's co-commentator, was far from impressed. She'd observed Postle closely for an extended period, both as a fellow player at the table and as a broadcaster. In her mind, there was a dark undercurrent to Postle's success, something nefarious and unseen. She'd been harbouring her suspicions for months, hoping that Stone's gambling hall would address the matter privately. But the fold against Cadero seemed so bizarre to her that she could no longer remain silent. Brill leaned back, shook her head, and dared to question the poker deity. "It doesn't make sense," she remarked, her voice laced with a subtle mockery. "It's like he knows. It doesn't make sense. It's weird." Caught off guard by his co-host's sceptical remarks, Kelly continued to express amazement, exclaiming, "Absolute insanity, guys," before skillfully shifting the conversation. As Veronica Brill drove in solitude towards her Bay Area residence that night, she replayed the broadcast in her mind, time and time again. Her subtle insinuation about Mike Postle had the potential to stir up controversy in the poker community. Fellow players might whisper that jealousy had driven her to tarnish the reputation of a more accomplished rival. A decent man who'd recently endured a harrowing family crisis. Cruising west on Interstate 80, Brill realised that she had no choice but to commit one of poker's cardinal sins. The illusion of genius. In the labyrinthine world of deceit and conspiracy, Veronica Brill was like many others who'd spent a significant portion of their lives at Stone's gambling hall. She'd come to regard Mike Postle as a friend, a man with a generous heart who radiated a mischievous charm. Postle was the kind of guy who would pick up the tab for everyone at the bar while entertaining them with risque anecdotes. One of his favourite tales involved a peculiar incident at Caesar's Palace, resulting in his banishment from the iconic establishment over a bizarre misunderstanding with a lady of the night. Until the summer of 2018, none of the professional players at Stones thought much of Postle's poker skills. Jake Rosenthal, a Sacramento pro, recalled, He was playing well enough to support himself, it seemed, but none of us thought Mike was this great poker player. And to say the poker world was left astounded was an understatement when Postle, once deemed middling at best, suddenly emerged as a dominating force in the casino's live-streamed Texas Hold'em games starting in July 2018. This transformation was remarkable. Postle even managed to take thousands of dollars off some renowned players who ventured into Northern California for their swings through the Stones gambling hall. While the casino typically didn't attract high rollers, its live-streamed games occasionally lured big names from Vegas and beyond. To capitalise on Postle's success, Stone's broadcast team went all out in an attempt to turn him into a poker superstar. They doubled down on the graphics to hype his seemingly magical skills, including a mock book cover listing Postle as the author of a guide to crushing souls and running pure. As we've seen, another graphic featured Postle's face superimposed over that of Jesus, further fueling his enigmatic persona. Veronica Brill, an analytics aficionado whose day job involved developing medical software, was one of those who felt the sting of defeat at Postle's hands, both as a player and as a live stream commentator during his extraordinary winning streak. By early 2019, she'd seen enough to cast a critical eye on Postle's inexplicable success. According to her, his victories defied mathematical logic. She believed he was winning far too frequently, especially for a player whose strategy didn't align with the principles of Game Theory Optimal, GTO, which is the prevailing strategy in modern Texas Hold'em. Game Theory Optimal, or GTO, is founded on the notion that there exists a single best decision for every possible betting scenario, a decision that maximises a player's winnings over time. Now, whilst it's true that in any given hand a player adhering to GTO might still suffer a loss, the overarching philosophy is that over thousands of hours of poker, a GTO practitioner is virtually guaranteed to emerge victorious. To master GTO, players must develop the acumen to discern the optimal move amongst the myriad betting situations. With 2,598,960 possible hands in the 5-card poker alone, this figure barely scratches the surface of the game's complexity. Furthermore, players must have a grasp of how their opponents are likely to respond to their moves. To sharpen GTO skills, elite pros dedicate hours each day to scrutinising past hands with software that pinpoints the exact moments where they faltered in the probability calculations. The enigma-sounding Postle's unorthodox and exceptional performance continued to baffle Veronica Brill and the poker community. Now, the next part of our investigation will delve deeper into the complexity of Mike Postle's uncanny winning streak and the suspicions that would eventually shatter the illusion of his poker genius. Poker and the mysterious psychology of uncertainty. In the realm of hoaxes, conspiracies and dubious claims, poker is a complex game where logic and intuition intertwine in a dance of uncertainty. For Veronica Brill, Mike Postle's poker game was a perplexing enigma, seemingly devoid of the cerebral approach that characterises elite players. Time and time again, Postle's decisions defied the very principles of GTO, and what confounded Brill the most was Postle's outstandingly high voluntary put-in pot VPIP statistic. He frequently stayed in games with whole cards that would prompt most skilled players to fold. Yet despite his audacity, Postle appeared to escape punishment, leading Brill to suspect that he might possess an unfair advantage, a deeper understanding of the game's unfolding dynamics. Let's take another look at one of Postle's hands, one where instead of laying down a strong hand and avoiding a big loss that we saw earlier, he bet strong with a weak hand. Mike, with one of the lowest hands possible in the game, has an uncanny insight. He bets against these players, an incredible play leading to an incredible win.
Mike Postle is in the small blind with the 10 deuce suited, so of course any crusher in these games is going to flat call here. Harlan is in the $10 blind, and he decides to put in the 3-bet, $235 to go. Cutoff makes the call, and easy decision for the 10 deuce to fold. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. Hold on a second. He does put in the call. A great spot to be three ways with 10 deuce out of position against some relatively short stacks.
Mike finds a deuce here on this board, and he has a backdoor flush draw to go with it. He has outflopped his opponents who have real hands. This is textbook Mike. And John O, to your point, here's a little maniac play by Mike. Mike can be a little bit of a poker maniac, as you can see with his 10 deuce coming along and outflopping people, and he won't be going anywhere. Mike flops pairs and draws and floats and all sorts of stuff, so we'll see what he does in this pot. Harlan is going to make a continuation bet. He's got backdoor hearts, ace high. This looks to be a board everybody has missed, which is half true. AC missed it.
Let's see, John O, hard to pinpoint, but live at the bike, because it plays bigger and wilder, it attracts an audience that wants to see big spots. People get felted and maniac play. Oh, yeah. Stones reflects more. I do kind of agree with this. We're putting people on our stream that play in our card room. Obviously, occasionally that's sprinkled with guys like Jamin, Johnny Vibes, comes, Chris Moneymaker, Daniel Negron was playing the weekend that we did the Poker Stars Platinum Pass. But for the most part, I would say 90% of the players that play here, and now Chris has been here so many times that he might as well be part of the gang, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's not a bad thing. It's all.
And here's what Stones is like. AC finds a raise here. So Mike with the best hand.
That's awesome.
It is awesome.
I mean,
so Harlan leads here with nothing. Well, ace high.
And then Mike shoves.
Wow. See what I mean? Okay, boom. Right on cue, Jono. What do you think about that?
They're playing face up.
Right? Totally. Absolutely. It's like, how does Mike shove here?
All AC is thinking is, AC is if there is a wild person at the table that is potential to get a little bit more wild than Mike, it's probably AC, to be honest.
Wow, and AC has to fold. What a great spot for Mike. Sick. How does he find a shove there? God, bet raise, shove.
Well, okay.
Really hard to play against a guy who knows what you have all the time and just always seems to find the perfect move.
In March 2019, Brill took her concerns to Justin Karatis, Stone's tournament director. The table used for Stone's live-streamed games was equipped with RFID sensors that scanned players' hole cards, feeding this crucial data into their live stream. Brill couldn't shake the nagging question, could Postle somehow be accessing this sensitive information? And just so you're aware, the stream was broadcast with a 30-minute delay to prevent somebody other than on the table feeding information to those players on the table. Karatis swiftly dismissed Brill's inquiry, brushing it off as ludicrous. Brill shared the exchange with a friend, texting, "Justin insists Stones is 100% secure and there is zero chance of cheating." And she added that Karatis insisted most players couldn't grasp the depth of Postle's brilliance. But Brill wasn't the sole skeptic who approached Karatis that month. On March the 13th, Karatis reached out to a pro player named Casey Mills, inviting her to participate in a live-streamed game. Mills responded with concerns about Postle, writing, "I have my concerns he may have found a way to cheat somehow, or else he is a god, which is a very high probable. I've just never seen anything close to what happens to him, and it can't help but draw questions." Karatis assured Mills that he conducted quarterly security audits and that games fairness is one of my highest priorities. And so as the late summer months rolled in, the whispers about Postle became too loud to ignore. Rivals like Jake Rosenthal, a Sacramento pro, took the matter to the casino's management. He proposed an investigation into the potential security vulnerabilities that Postle might be exploiting. However, management was swift in their rejection, dismissing the cheating rumours outright. Veronica Brill, having uttered her suspicions during the September livestream, unwittingly set in motion a chain of events that would amplify the buzz around Postle's alleged deceptions. With the weight of her allegations now public, she found herself an unwelcome presence at Stones, a stark reminder that unravelling a poker conspiracy could come at a high personal cost. In the next part of this investigation, we'll delve deeper into the rising suspicions and the challenges of exposing a poker cheat amidst a world of deception and uncertainty.
You're right, Teddy. The ace didn't help me. I flopped the nut straight.
When the story takes the internet by storm. On September the 28th, a seismic shift rocked the poker world and Mike Postle was thrust into the eye of the storm. It all began with a video unleashed by Veronica Brill, a compilation of Postle's most bizarre hands that she shared with the poker community. Alongside the footage, Brill posted a series of tweets acknowledging the lack of concrete proof but expressing her suspicion. "Am I sure this player is cheating? No," she stated. "Do I think that there is a greater than 0% chance that he is? Yes. I feel that with such a high VPIP and playstyle, if we run the sim 100 times with players of equal competency, he's running in the 95th percentile of results." Brill even ran into the realm of potential signals that Mike Postle could be receiving, suggesting that he might be getting covert information through a small device on his leg that lets him know when he's ahead. In response to her video, Postle's world began to unravel. Friends and acquaintances flooded his phones with calls and messages, all riddled with growing apprehension. Joey Blackwell, a poker host who had worked alongside Postle during the September game, couldn't suppress his doubts. "I asked him directly, 'Mike, did you cheat in our game?' Blackwell recalled. And he said, 'No, Joe, I respect you too much for anything like that. I would never cheat anybody in this game or any other game,' and I believed him." A restless night later, Postle composed a lengthy, emotionally charged text to Brill. In it, he chastised her for taking the matter public without addressing him privately. Postle defended his poker skills with fervour, recounting how he had competed against some of the world's best players, claiming to have earned over $2 million online from 2003 to the start of 2008. He couldn't fathom how someone like Brill, who had always been kind to him, could betray him and expose him to the unforgiving court of public opinion. However, Postle's fate had been sealed. The allegations against him had been unleashed, and he soon found himself enmeshed in a torrent of criticism. Brill was chastised for presenting a purely circumstantial case against Postle. In the poker world, it should be noted, it is sacrilegious to accuse a fellow player of cheating without incontrovertible evidence. All Brill had offered, after all, was a speculative hypothesis rooted in mathematical analysis. Matthew Berkeley, a prominent pro with career earnings exceeding $4 million, cautioned her, saying, "In this game, trust, your word and your morality are currency. So I warned her that, hey, you're going to take a lot of backlash for this." The backlash didn't take long to manifest, and it was anything but gentle. In October, an individual on Twitter launched a vicious attack on Brill, a harrowing message that reduced her to tears. With cruel words and poor pronunciation, the anonymous author declared, "I couldn't wait for her own baby to die." How sick is that? Brill's journey is one that has been marked by struggle and resilience. She was born in Edmonton in the 80s to Polish immigrants who'd fled communist Poland and resided in an Austrian refugee camp before settling in Canada. Despite her father's engineering background, the family found themselves in menial jobs. They pinched pennies and refused even minor indulgences. Once old enough to take control of her social life, Brill entered into the world of beauty pageants and DJ'd hip-hop music at Edmonton clubs as DJ Lady V. She navigated through university on an unconventional path, eventually becoming a licensed practical nurse at 28, later upgrading to a registered nurse. Along the way, she acquired her first home, a place that came equipped with a broken satellite dish that offered a meagre 3 channels, one of which aired British poker non-stop. A boyfriend's obsession with poker prompted her to delve into the game, experimenting at a casino in West Edmonton. Soon she was triumphing over well-heeled roughnecks from the Fort McMurray oil fields who would travel in with bundles of cash to squander. She moved to Del Rio, Texas and married a US Air Force fighter pilot she'd met during his training exercise in Alberta. And 4 years later the couple relocated to Sacramento. Although professionally she was primarily in nursing, she secured an IT job at a local hospital where she was tasked with developing software to streamline medical order processing. And this role deepened her interest in advanced analytics, leading her to pursue a master's degree in predictive analytics from Northwestern University. And she did this even as she faced the imminent arrival of her first child. Her son David was born with lissencephaly, which is a rare condition that led to frequent seizures, and a prolonged struggle to care for David began. Doctors predicted he would not live past his first birthday. On rare occasions when she did leave the house, she sought refuge in the local casinos, particularly Stone's Gambling Hall, where the rational complexities of Texas Hold'em provided an escape. With a magnetic presence, Brill persuaded Stones to let her host a monthly live-streamed game. Her charisma earned her a role as a regular commentator for other games at the casino. Now, despite her personal struggles and the overwhelming demands of her son's illness, few knew just how much red wine she was consuming to numb the pain. She says, "Stones became my one place I could go to not feel any pain or just to numb it for a little bit." Tragically, David survived until his 3rd birthday and then faced tragic complications which led to his death in December 2016. Brill's marriage crumbled under the weight of their shared grief. Let's come back to the suspicions Brill had over Mike Postle, and we'll find out what happens when the internet takes notice. So as the controversy continued to unfold, a prominent figure in the poker world stepped into the fray, Joey Ingram. He's a well-known player and host of the Poker Live podcast, and he turned his attention to the video compiled by Veronica Brill. Ingram is no stranger to investigating poker scandals, and he was initially skeptical but decided to delve deeper. He began examining a year-old game available on Stone's YouTube channel. What followed was remarkable as he took a plunge into the enigma of Mike Postle and tirelessly reviewed hours and hours and hours of Texas Hold'em footage, foregoing sleep and sustenance. "I watched every hand he played," Ingram explained. "The guys running and gunning and making these amazing plays, amazing bluffs. I watched 4 sessions that first night, and it was the same thing in all 4 sessions. And I'm like, something's really messed up here."
That's right. Today we are going to be talking with the whistleblower that will go down in the history of poker, who helped expose the man known as Mike Postle, formerly Mr. God Mode, turned into the man that's been known to stare down at his crotch and play crotch stereoptimal CTO.
Around 4 a.m. on October the 1st, Ingram took to live streaming, critiquing Postle's older games at Stone's. For 5 hours he dissected each hand, highlighting the peculiar decisions Postle made that defied the conventional poker wisdom, yet consistently led to victories or minimised losses. Tellingly, he also observed that Postle had a tendency to glance down at his lap, the very place where he kept his cell phone during games. I was like, alright, he's looking at his crotch, and he seems to be playing like he's a god, Ingram remarked.
And then I start taking a look at it. The first session I go back to, I'm like, wow, right? Like zero evidence, completely fabricated. I watched 5 sessions that first night. I watched about 22 hours of footage the first night, going through the hands, just looking at hands Mike Postle played, taking notes on his style, on his play pattern. And I say, what the fuck is going on here, right? This is not normal poker. Like, this is obviously something's happening here, right?
Ingram's live stream became a sensation, prompting him to host another extended session the next day. Tens of thousands of poker enthusiasts tuned in, captivated not only by the audacity of Postle's alleged offences, but also by the potential implications for the poker industry as a whole. To many, Postle's supposed cheating had been revealed, only because he'd been too greedy and hadn't concealed his actions by occasionally losing on purpose. This raised concerns that there were more cunning cheaters, and these might be operating under the radar by avoiding suspiciously high win rates.
Nothing was done, and it was gross negligence.
So let's talk about this investigation, right? So you report your concerns to Justin. He tells you that you lack the ability to understand crotch theory optimal, CTO, the Postle play style, looking down at the crotch. So he tells you you don't understand what's going on.
As Ingram's fans scoured poker forums with their findings, a 2+2 thread quickly swelled to hundreds of pages, featuring spreadsheets and graphs purportedly showing Postle's victories in over 86% of the live-streamed games at Stones, a feat almost impossible according to Texas Hold'em mathematics. This collective investigation caught the attention of Scott Van Pelt, a SportsCenter anchor on ESPN. On October the 3rd, Van Pelt dedicated a 3.5-minute section of airtime to the Stones controversy, making his sympathies clear. If you were this good, why would you be playing in games only with a video feed of $1, $3 tables at Stone's Poker Room? Van Pelt asked as he concluded his segment, why wouldn't you be in Vegas winning all the money in the world? So as public opinion turned increasingly against him, Postle attempted to reclaim control of the narrative. On October the 4th, he agreed to appear on a podcast hosted by Mike the Mouth Matzo. In a groggy and somewhat disjointed manner, Postle maintained his innocence and suggested he'd been targeted due to jealousy amongst his rivals. Postle failed to offer a clear and direct rebuttal to the accusation, saying, "There aren't words to describe what I do. It's creative, diabolical, and predicated on having an MO of always trying to be the most unpredictable player at the table. There's no book or anything out there that can explain what I do." Nevertheless, the interview did little to ease growing doubts in the poker world about Postle's guilt. The situation had escalated to the point where strangers were showing up at his house, causing fear for the safety of his daughter, 8 years old.
They thought he was some type of god. They thought he was God's gift to poker.
This is one chart that can be found on the 2+2 thread. Each of these dots represents a player and how they play over many, many hands. It shows, if you look left to right, the BB per 100, and this is a measure of how much you win on average over a large number of hands. It stands for big blinds per 100. You can see that the majority of players are massed around the zero. In other words, some players are winning to the right and some players are losing to the left. But visually you can see on average players are clustered around the 0 win, 0 loss point, which is what you'd expect. Some players win, some players lose. On the left up-down scale is VPIP, and this is a measure of how many hands you voluntarily bet into. Generally, the more hands you play, the more erratic your results, because you'll be betting with weak hands, often losing as a result, but occasionally those weak hands get luck on the community cards in the middle, meaning that you may win with unlikely hands that other players might not expect you'll have. As a result, your wins tend to be bigger, but also your loss is bigger, and this is why as you go up the graph the results for players tend to be more scattered from left to right. If we expand out a bit, we see what is known as an outlier, a player that doesn't fall into the natural cluster of player results. This player, called Pot Ripper, was part of a proven inside cheating syndicate at the online betting site Absolute Poker, and it was analysis such as this that uncovered the fraud. Let's pull out a bit more. Who is this player? None other than our apostle, Mike Postle.
We both got out of the booth like, what the fuck is Mike doing? And we were pretty sarcastic towards the end of the show.
Let's take a quick look at the man himself. Mike Postle, the father and gambler. Mike Postle's affinity for gambling goes way back to his childhood in Wisconsin. Even in games played with his 5 siblings, there was always some sort of wager at stake. Monopoly, for instance, or real money changing hands. Postle also devised games of skill and chance, including a prize wheel installed at his father's roller rink. Kids would pay 50 cents for a chance to win the $5 jackpot. But as his brother Andrew Postle recounted during a Stones live stream in August 2019, the game was rigged. My brother put some quarters behind the wheel so that when you spun it, you'd always get close to the $5 bill. He said, if there's an angle for my brother to do it, he'll do it. A very telling and perhaps compromising statement to make in light of what we know now. At 18, Postle secured a job at an Indian casino near his home. He started as a cashier, and fostering his love for poker, he eventually became a dealer. In the early 2000s, he moved to Mississippi, a poker hub, where he thrived as a player. He found his natural analytical skills were more profitable as a player than as a dealer. And by the mid-2000s, he'd secured victories in some major competitions, including one where he pocketed nearly $120,000. He was ahead of the curve back then, says Michael Weyer, who came second to Postle in the 2005 competition. He didn't amass that amount of chips by being a dummy. During those high-stake days, he was also involved with Rounder Life, a poker magazine. He actually dated one of the magazine's models, the daughter of a professional bowler from Las Vegas. Their relationship took a significant turn when she became pregnant in 2010, and this prompted the couple to move to Sacramento to be closer to Postle's parents, who'd relocated there and could assist with childcare. However, shortly after giving birth, Postle's wife informed him of her diagnosis with a brain tumour which required a risky surgery. She wanted to get married before her supposed surgery because she feared not surviving it, and only 2 days after their swift wedding in December 2011 the operation took place. However, the brain tumour narrative turned out to be untrue. An MRI conducted just over a week before her surgery revealed her brain was perfectly healthy. Before Postle realised the extent of the deception, he learned of his wife's severe mental health and substance abuse issues. The couple attempted to salvage their marriage through therapy. Unravelling the aftermath. The Stones scandal, which had seized the national spotlight in October 2019, raised critical questions in the poker community. Postle's extraordinary results left many convinced that something fishy had occurred, yet a significant enigma loomed large. How had Postle managed to acquire his opponent's hold card information in real time? Andrew Milner, an Australian and inventor of the RFID-equipped table crucial to live-stream poker, seemed best equipped to address the question. He was once an IT worker and poker enthusiast, and he'd built his first RFID table in 2008 to aid in poker training, but his innovation garnered the interest of casinos looking for a cost-effective way to broadcast hole cards to viewers via the internet.
Yeah, it's okay.
You just said the S word.
Veronica dropped the
you're
billion.
like S, like curse. Again, Mike's instincts are just Mike.
Yeah,
Mike can
is
see
on
his
a different
opponent's
level
cards
tonight.
right now. He just can see their cards.
Justin Karaitis, Stone's tournament director, contacted Milner in October to explore potential vulnerabilities in the RFID table that Postle might have exploited. Milner ruled out the theory that Postle had tapped into the encrypted data transmitted from the table's sensors to the casino's broadcast centre, and it seemed unlikely anyway that Postle possessed the technical prowess to overcome the strong encryption. However, there was another possibility, an inside job. Milner inquired of Curatis, "Do you trust your people?" And it was a critical question. Even the most robust security measures are rendered irrelevant if you can't trust the individuals administering them. Security in the broadcast room at Stones, as multiple witnesses revealed, was anything but airtight. According to a former contractor, a masseur entered the supposedly secure room whilst he worked on the live stream, and no one questioned it. On October the 8th, the notion of an accomplice emerged, and a $30 million federal lawsuit filed by Veronica Brill and 87 other players, including Mills, was brought against multiple defendants, Stones, Postle, Curatis, and unnamed collaborators, of either fraud or negligence. Mac Verstanding, their attorney, a poker enthusiast himself, focused on casino-related cases and argued that Postle had achieved a win rate not known to have been achieved by any other poker player over such a significant period of time. The complaints detailed their belief about what had transpired. The plaintiffs have reason to believe the mechanisms through which these myriad acts of wire fraud were carried out by Mr. Postle, John Doe's 1 to 10 and Jane Doe's 1 to 10, involved Mr. Postle's cellular telephone being grasped by his left hand whilst concealed under the table, and or Mr. Postle's baseball cap being embedded with a communications device, creating an artificial bulge in its lining that is most notably absent in photographs of the same baseball cap on Mr. Postle when he is not playing on Stone's live poker. In the review of Postle's hands undertaken by the likes of Joey Ingram, he does time after time after time look into his crotch, one hand seemingly on his lap or holding his phone, and this apparently was not his style of play before the live streaming and his superhuman winning streak took place. If Postle were somehow getting feeds about his opponent's hands from a third party, then it would have to be someone with access to the RFID data coming from the table itself. RFID works like this. When a player places his cards on the table, a reader from under the table senses the cards and relays these back to the tech room, where they're used to provide the graphics and overlays you see when you're watching the live stream. But what would happen if the settings in the tech room were incorrectly set?
Kings and sevens. The two pairs nothing next to a full house. And at this point, the only hand left that can beat a queen full house is a king full house. Captain Von Trapp left two pair and rivered into kings full.
Motherfucker! Motherfucker! Fuck you fucking
Here we see an example in a game called Omaha. In this game, each player has 4 cards instead of the usual 2 that you would have in regular poker, say Texas Hold'em. But if someone had forgotten to change the settings so that the graphics only showed 2 cards, then if you were playing normally, you wouldn't know this, as you wouldn't have access to the live data. However, if you did and used this to cheat, then you'd no doubt be frustrated and perhaps put your cards down again and again and move them over the RFID reader, perhaps looking at your crotch from time to time to see whether that had changed things. Make up your own mind about what you're seeing here, but I can tell you that after seeing many hands from Mike Postle, that this shuffling and moving cards over the table is absolutely not in his normal style of play. What was going on? So back to the case evolution. Verstanding indicated that the plaintiffs had a good faith basis to identify John Doe 1, but had preferred to hold off until the discovery process was completed. And John Doe 1 would have been the accomplice that had access to the RFID data. Stones themselves enlisted the elite Fort law firm, Boies Schiller Flexner, to defend against the lawsuit, and Curatis hired a top white-collar crime specialist in Sacramento. Postle, on the other hand, chose to represent himself, largely because, as one of his close friends noted, he was now broke. despite having won an estimated $250,000 during his heat-up. Postle asserted himself he had only earned $80,000 from the winning streak, suggesting his accusers inaccurately included chips he had purchased or loans repaid by fellow players. And amidst these mounting legal pressures, individuals who remained in contact with Postle from the Stones circle grew concerned about his mental and emotional well-being. A conclusion of sorts. In 2023, Postle refrained from directly addressing the allegations against him, but expressed that his passion for poker had significantly waned. He'd shifted his focus to spending time with his daughter. He also voiced his frustration with poker vloggers and other social media personalities who he believed attacked him for their personal profit-driven motives. He's remarked, "I didn't really understand the whole fake news manipulation that happens for the sake of a story until this happened. More or less all of the information that's out there, honestly, none of it's true. The exaggeration, the manipulation is just sickening." He emerged in June with a good piece of news. He'd received word that the federal court in California had granted Stone's motion to dismiss the lawsuit. The judge's decision was mainly rooted in the argument that California's gambling laws generally do not permit poker losses to be recovered through civil action. The judge did keep the door open for the standing to refile if more information came to light. Postle was in the clear. At that time, Postle was still a defendant in a separate $250,000 lawsuit filed in Nevada by Mal Cordero, the player he folded against during Brill's last broadcast at Stones. The Nevada court dismissed that case in August, citing its lack of jurisdiction in California. Postle himself didn't appear to be celebrating the legal victory. He launched a verbal assault on Veronica Brill, accusing her of being a toxic, pathological liar with narcissistic and sociopathic traits. He seemed adamant that Brill had fabricated the charges against him to bolster her YouTube following, despite lacking evidence to support her claims. Although he later apologised for his invective, he refused further engagement, asserting that he'd only be able to reveal the full truth once he was no longer in legal jeopardy. Veronica Brill expressed herself bewildered by the dismissal of the federal lawsuit in California and expressed her frustration on learning of the judge's ruling by exclaiming, "You can cheat on live TV and get away with it? So frustrating. It's not the money per se, it's the lack of accountability." She got some more bad news a few weeks later when, instead of filing an amended complaint, Max Verstanding asked her and other plaintiffs to accept a settlement from Stones. She rejected the offer when she discovered that, in exchange for a meagre sum, that she would need to sign a public statement conceding that there was no forensic evidence that there was cheating at Stones. Postle himself then filed a $330 million defamation lawsuit against a dozen individuals, and in response Brill and another defendant, Todd Whitless, filed anti-slap motions to dismiss the lawsuit, citing it was frivolous and a violation of free speech, and both were awarded $27,000 as a result of that. Following the dissolution of the legal case, Brill became the target of a barrage of abuse from anonymous Twitter accounts. She's talked about the stress that the libel lawsuit has had on her, and it would require years and her life savings to defend if she continued. Nevertheless, she maintains that she harbours no regrets about exposing Postle. For her, she has perhaps had some closure. On January the 7th, 2022, a confidential agreement was entered into Postle's bankruptcy records, which closed the only remaining litigation stemming from the Stones gambling hall livestream poker cheating scandal, and that turn of events effectively put an end to the official Postlegate saga. While the playing out of this saga on live Twitter and YouTube broadcasts by the likes of Joey Ingram was fascinating at the time, people are polarised on one side or another on this. And as we bring this incredible journey to a close, one thing does remain clear: the world of poker can be just as treacherous as it is thrilling. Postle's Saga serves as a stark reminder that the line between fact and fiction is often razor thin, and sometimes even the most astute players can't predict the outcome of a game. While any legal remedies appear to have come to an end, what's become of Mike Postle and the poker community? Well, the battle continues. Allegations and accusations are still looming. While Postle's own career took an unexpected turn, the world still watches to see if he can regain his tarnished reputation. One thing's for certain, the legacy of this poker cheat, if he is, and the questions surrounding his actions will persist in the annals of the game's history, making us all question whether luck truly governs our destinies or if there's a greater, more intricate game being played. Postscript, has the drama really ended? Earlier this year, a player called Michael Lawrence was seen playing poker in a Beau Rivage resort casino. This happened to be the first name and middle name of one Mike Postle. Brill wasn't slow to call this one out once notified. And in a second clip, Mike Postle was seen and videoed as he played his last hand in this poker tournament. "That was for all the people you cheated," was heard faintly as Mike left the table. Veronica Brill said, "Why are you allowing a known poker cheater to play in your poker room?" And this was when she saw the Beau Rivage footage. So with Mike still appearing at the tables and Veronica still waiting her $27,000 judgment from him, it appears that the saga is not yet quite over. Let's see what tomorrow brings. And so as the dealer hand of subscribe deals 2 aces to the button of notification, all that's left for me to say is bye for now.